Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the Wednesday, April 17th, 2019 meeting of the Airport Advisory Board. The first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand and accompany me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Would you conduct a roll call, please, Alondra?
Shannon Stebbins.
Here.
Louis Worthy.
Here.
Dave McNary. Robbie Willis.
Here.
Brian Schultz. Mark Zeff.
Here.
Shannon Hicks. Ed Weber.
Here.
Raleigh Ballas. Jim Dolan.
Here.
Damon Anderson.
Here.
And Mark Clark. You have a quorum.
Thank you very much. The next item is an open call to the public. I'm going to read the paragraph in accordance with Arizona Open Meeting Law. We will now have an open call to the public for citizens wishing to address the board on issues within the jurisdiction of the board. Your comments must be limited to 5 minutes or less. If you wish to address an item already on today's agenda, you should wait until that item is announced for a public hearing. At the conclusion of the open call to the public, individual members of the board may respond to criticisms made by those who address the board. They may ask staff to review a matter or may ask that a matter be placed on a future agenda. However, board members cannot discuss or take legal actions on matters not already on the agenda. With that in mind, do we have anyone that would like to address the board? Seeing none, we'll close the open call to the public. Item 5 is the approval of the March 20th, 2019 meeting minutes, of which you have a copy. I would entertain a motion to approve those minutes or any discussion on amending.
Mr. Chair, motion to approve the minutes.
Do I have a second for that motion?
Second.
Any opposed? Motion is unanimously approved. Item 6 is a broad title, Communications Announcements and Airport Supervisors Report, and I will turn it over to Damon Anderson for that.
How y'all doing? I don't have a whole lot to go over, just kind of recap kind of what we talked about last week. I mean, we're continually working on the RFP. Plan is to have that out by the end of next month. We're doing some hangar inspections still. We've got several of those done last week, and we're trying to move forward with continually doing more of those and getting them done on a timely manner. And that's going pretty good. I spent the last 3 days at the ASA convention in Laughlin, Bullhead, and that was a really good thing. It's a great thing to go to. It's amazing how they get every airport manager from every airport here in Arizona. We all get together, and it's just a great networking thing. So we made lots of good connections there as well. And we're continually working on the master plan, gathering data for those guys, making sure they get everything they need to keep going. Same with the taxiway alpha rehabilitation. We're continually moving forward with that. We're still in the middle of getting the independent fee estimate from a separate consultant, but that's the stage that we're at, and that shouldn't take too long to get, and we'll move forward after that. And we also, you know, I'm sure some of y'all noticed, but we did get those gate codes changed. I believe it was yesterday when we finally ended up changing that, so I hope you got the letter and the code, and if for some reason you forgot or what have you, you can always give me a call, and you know, we'll fill you back in. But that's the majority of what I've got. I mean, we've got a lot of military traffic in this week. I don't know if anybody's seen that, but they've got a mission going. So we've had several C-130s come in doing lots of work on ospreys and things like that there. It's been pretty interesting, but you'll see some more of that for the next week or so. But any questions, I'd be glad to answer. That's the majority of what I've got as of right now.
Any questions?
You know, not regarding anything in your report now, but I happened to miss the presentation a couple weeks ago, the airport presentation. Would this be the time or place to maybe give a little recap on that, a minute or something?
And what presentation for the?
Wasn't there?
It's the master plan, and that's
Oh, you're talking about the public workshop? That we
Yeah,
did?
that,
Yeah.
I had missed that. I had an
That's a
emergency.
completely separate item from the airport board.
Okay, terrific.
I think. I mean, we could talk about conclusions, which none have been made yet, but
Yeah, I mean, no, it was good. We had a great turnout. I mean, that
Well,
was.
you can't talk about what
I don't
what
think
the
we
theme
can,
of the
but
thing
it's,
was. What the
No, so it was just an open to the public for anybody to come in and talk and see where we're going. You know, we had accomplished the first 3 chapters of the master plan, so they had all that there to display, you know, and answer any questions. And that dealt with just an introduction and inventory of what we have, and the forecast of where aviation's going. I think the next chapter that's coming up is going to be alternatives, where we can go in and start looking at different options that we put on the ALP. You know, different ideas that we may have of different developments that can go on there, things like that. But it's definitely good and in the moving.
there's certainly nothing secret about the master plan, and that
Right.
data is available.
Yeah, I think they've got the link on the website.
Every
You can go in
person that's on that committee has all the data, and I'm sure you have it, and they can stop by there. And anything that comes out of the master plan, or that needs to be, any questions that come up that need input from us, we'll certainly bring that here. But to go through the master plan stuff is pretty much outside the scope of this board,
Sure.
I think.
Yeah, terrific. Thank you so much.
Has the fire department given any indication of when they're going to start the inspections?
Had the fire department about a year ago announced that they were no longer going to conduct fire inspections. There was a proposed checklist that went through the board and we approved. However, we have not seen that being sent to people either. But as of a year ago, the fire department told us they did not have the staffing to conduct the fire inspections annually at the hangars like they used to.
That's one of the, we are trying to do that with our inspections. We're also addressing those fire things in their list of, you know, requirements.
Thank you.
Question, would you have to have a third party inspecting it, or could you inspect it within your own management?
We're just doing it within our
Nice.
own.
Any other questions? Upcoming events, we have an EAA clinic next Saturday morning that's open to anyone that wishes to attend, and it's going to address oil changes and other approved actions that airplane owners can do that don't require a certified mechanic. So if you'd like to come out and view that, I think it's going to start at Hangar 36, and it may morph to someplace else as well. We'll just see, but that's open to anybody that wants to come. We also completed the Young Eagles flying, and we had a great turnout, and it almost went like clockwork. We flew almost 60 kids, and it was subscribed within 4 days. So we're going to try to do another one before a year is up. As soon as the weather cools off, we'll try to do another one of those events. Do you have anything else, Damon?
Just the Desert Storm that's coming up. I'm working with the guy putting that on, you know, so that we can issue NOTAMs for all the helicopters that are going to be in the area with those boats and things like that. But that's about the only other one that I know of immediately.
Anyone else have any comments?
Time on your clinic.
I think the clinic, do you know what time it starts, ma'am? 10 o'clock. Okay, item 7 is public hearings. The first item is 7.1. It's discussion and possible action regarding revising the city code to allow hot refueling at the airport. And this is on here at the request of Damon, so I'll have him make his presentation before we open it up to a public hearing.
Yeah, we've looked over that and looked at the city ordinance that we had that, you know, said that we weren't going to do, and it's just like we talked about last week, you know, or last month when APUs are going and all those things, and it's definitely something that people enjoy that we do at the airport, or they would like to have that. You know, it eliminates those cycles, things like that are really detrimental to some of those aircraft. We've revised the code to where it's just going to say that you're not allowed to do any hot fueling without a current hot fueling permit issued by the city, you know, and there'll be certain things that you'll have to do to make sure that you know, are in compliance with that. And we'll draft that up. I think it may still be a month or two out before we ever do get this finalized, and I'll have that, you know, that whole permit drafted out and all the specifics that you have to follow and what have you. But it'd be my recommendation that we go ahead and amend, you know,
My only concern would be safety. How do you intend to, well, 2 parts. will the fire department safety people be consulted and have a buy-in to this permitting process as well?
Yeah, I definitely am going to consult with them, and run through all the different things that we're trying to do, and possibly maybe even designating a spot over there close to the fire department in that area as well. But yeah, definitely going to get their input on it as well of anything that they want to put in there to make sure that we're following all their rules as well.
Do you have the verbiage with you for the proposed change?
I do. It's not a whole lot. It's just going to be no aircraft shall be fueled or defueled at the airport while the aircraft power plant is running without a current hot fueling permit issued by the city. And then the rest is kind of still the same as what it was. No aircraft shall be fueled or defueled at the airport while in a hangar or in an enclosed space as well. But that's the gist of it. It's pretty straightforward.
Mr. Worthy?
Now, is that permit for the FBO or is it per individual?
No, it's just per the FBO to make sure that they are in compliance with it.
This is a public hearing. Let me open it up to any comments from members of the audience. Do we have any? Mr. Stokely.
So first concern is, of course, is location, because they do a lot of that behind our hangars, which I haven't seen a problem with it, and we are in a steel hangar. So the training of the ground staff that will be doing this hot refueling might be a little bit of a concern. Is there anything we can do to make sure the ground staff is trained? Because just because you give a permit to any of either one of the FBOs doesn't mean that training has been done, at least some basic training to understand what to do and what you're supposed to have on the truck. And, do you need to carry a fire extinguisher as you're fueling? There's some things that I see that should be enhanced. Thank you.
Tim, would you like to respond to that?
I mean, they could definitely have a lead person that's the designated hot fueler at that, necessarily if every one of them are doing it. But every individual that's out there running the truck should have all that training documentation in place with that FBO.
And is it your intention to outline the training requirements as part of the permitting process and to ensure that the records indicate that this training has been done?
Correct. Yeah, it's all laid out there. We even pulled it up. I believe Carrie even pulled up, the proper ways to get all that training done, the process to go through it, who you do, and.
So this is not just a process of I come and get a permit from you. This is a process I come to you with documented training and you issue me the permit. Correct.
Yeah, there would be no permit issued without prior training, approved and official.
Anyone else in the audience? Any members of the board like to make a comment?
Mr. Chair, so hot fueling has been allowed normally there anyway, without anyone, but it's in the code that it's not supposed to be done, and we just discovered this.
It's not being allowed. It's just been being done. And,
right.
Yeah,
so
we've
been pretty safe for years with people doing it in a untrained fashion.
Correct.
So do you feel
no incident that I know of.
Do you feel confident in the process that you're bringing to the board that they will have a good training? Will there be a way for us to have input on that training, or is this a federal training course that they'd probably go deal with?
Most of the time, the fuel providers that each FBO is working with, most of the time they implement all that training and will provide it all for them. It's just something they want as well,
There are some requirements in the NFC code that you discussed with me, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have that knowledge, or I just know that it's there is all.
Yeah, we'll definitely make sure that we work with those fuel providers and that they are on top of making sure that everything they're training is legitimate, and it normally is. They don't send people to, any sketchy things of that nature. It's normally always top notch,
My thoughts are that the statement that it's been going on but not allowed is accurate, and it has been going on, and either we have to say it can't go on, or and there's a demonstrated need for it, and certainly those people that operate jet engines know what that need is, or it wouldn't be being requested. So from my standpoint, it's a need, and if it can be done safely, then we can monitor it. That's better than prohibiting something that's needed to occur.
Sure.
And I entertain any. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, just for insurance purposes, is there specific insurance that's required when you're doing hot fueling, and do the current, since they're doing it anyway, is the insurance adequate for if in case there's something that goes wrong?
Right, and that is one thing that I would feel would fall back on the FBO, the people that are doing the fueling, that, you know, they should definitely make sure that they have all that insurance in place, and that's part of what the requirements will be.
I don't know how quick these changes take place, but is that something that we could look into just to make sure that the insurance covers? Because that's something that could be changed right away, right? They can up their coverage or change it, you know, prior to verbiage in the code getting updated to allow for, you know, them to do hot fueling per the code instead
No,
of.
I agree. That's definitely something that's got to be done. There's got to be some kind of insurance coverage if that's going on out there. I wouldn't want us to take on that extra. The premiums will definitely go up for them for things of that nature, you know. And like I say, if that's something they really want to pursue and keep doing and offering to the public, then that'll be, you know, part of the cost of doing business is to pay that extra insurance for that.
Mr. Chairman?
But I can definitely look into it.
Yes, sir.
To make sure.
And just to clarify too, the ordinance would allow it, the permit itself would determine what kind of requirements would go with it, and that could be changed by the staff level, so.
I think that the issue that here was whether or not we want to change the ordinance. And then if we decide that we'd like to recommend that the ordinance be changed and the city council agrees with that, then beyond that, then we can come back together and talk about what the permitting requirements are, I think. But I'm a little bit loath to get into insurance requirements because as the sponsor, we are not liable for that. That's the people doing the fueling, and I'd like to keep a separation between the sponsor and the person that's doing the refueling, I think.
Would the hot refueling only be allowed from a truck, or would it be allowed at the fuel pits?
No, it would not be allowed at the fuel pits. No, it would only be allowed from a truck. I mean, it can only be done through pressurized fueling, single point. So, and it's only jet at that. And I don't even think they have self-serve jet over at that area.
Right, you should not do hot refueling by opening a fuel cap and putting a nozzle in. That's extremely dangerous to do that. Any other comments? Is there any member of the board that would like to recommend that this not be approved by the city council? If not, then if we'd like to recommend that the city council improvement, there's a sheet in front of you with a recommended motion for approval or a recommended motion for disapproval. So I would entertain a motion to approve at this time.
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, sir.
I move to recommend to the City Council the adoption of an ordinance amending Section 11.08.710 of the City Code to allow hot fueling at the airport.
Do I have a second?
I will second that.
All in favor, please raise your hand. Unanimously approved. The next item for discussion is a discussion regarding the use of designated front terminal parking space for long-term parking. This is also something that Mr. Anderson brought up, I think. I'd like to let you know, brief us on what your plan is.
Yeah, just like I say, a lot of these people have been parking inside the fence and utilizing up apron space and things like that, and then we don't know exactly who all they are, different things of that nature, and I just wanted to definitely open up that area that we have down there since it's not being used that much to alleviate some of those vehicles that are parked on the field. You know, you got a lot of times people are parking their aircraft. Where they park their aircraft, they'll take the aircraft out, park their car there, but we've got a few of these hangars that are doing shared things like that, and when that person comes in and takes his aircraft, you know, people aren't necessarily wanting to park a car right there. They'd like to park it somewhere else and then lease that shared space out to somebody else to continue making revenue. And then in turn, well, that car ends up having to go somewhere, and if they can't take it to the home, if they don't have it at home here, so then it ends up out there on our apron or behind somebody's hangar or something like that. And just trying to alleviate some of those problems. We've also opened up some discussions with a few other individuals about developing some possible storage, covered storage for the people that don't like to just leave them out in the sun, and they do want to leave them in a hangar all the time. You know, and obviously that's not something that's FAA approved for aeronautical use, is having vehicles in hangars other than aircraft. So we're going to be looking at, you know, creating some storage that's on a non-aeronautical aviation area of the airport, and to accommodate some of those people that are looking to do that.
So it's factual to say that the long-term parking that you have available now would be at the back of the cargo ramp, and that's supposed to be by lease only. It's not just open for somebody to park that's left their airplane.
Correct.
So you're talking about making available.
I mean, we had been parking some cars there a long time ago, is my understanding. We had lots of those reserved, and most of those were for the city tie downs and different tie downs that were out there on the field. But it ended up turning into a parking lot for these cars that should be in a hangar. Most of the guys that are in the tie downs are now parking the cars where the aircraft was in the tie down, and they don't necessarily need that other spot over there. And it's, like I say, it's just turned into a free-for-all parking lot in there with these other cars coming out of hangars and what have you. And we don't have permits, don't know who they are, and we needed it. It all kind of came up just last week when we were trying to do some, maintenance on that pavement of that parking lot. And there we had it all covered in cars, and nobody knew whose they were, and nobody knew where the keys were, and we needed to move them just so we could get construction guys out there to work on it. And
Is there a map or anything or a picture that we can see just to get our head around it? No, is it the parking lot in front of the terminal where people drop off?
That's what we're talking about,
So
making it
leaving
available
that.
to them.
Getting rid of the 72-hour parking and moving that, is that?
No, we're going to try to utilize that 72-hour parking that's there. We may not necessarily make sure it's only 72-hour parking anymore. That's the thing, is possibly taking those signs down and letting these other guys use it.
Oh, use that as the, okay, yeah,
Right.
I know where that's at, yeah, okay.
And the place where they are parking is kind of, I don't know if you're familiar, but out there where the cargo aircraft are at, the FedEx and, the other cargo planes, they've ended up using the majority of that apron area right there.
This is a public hearing. Let me open it up for comment from anyone in the audience. Anyone care to make a comment? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Any other comments from the board?
Well, every time I've been out there, I see plenty of space, I think it's a good idea. If you think it's a good idea, I mean, you spend a lot more time than us out there, and you really got your head wrapped around what's going on, and it doesn't seem like it's that detrimental of a change that it's going to impact anybody, or, if it was a big deal, maybe we would have had more public people objecting to it, but I think that makes sense,
Yeah, sure.
I don't see any issue. That parking lot is not overtaxed at the terminals. We don't have scheduled service at this point in time, and certainly anything that's done, if and when we ever got scheduled service or needed that parking spaces, it's not cast in stone. But as far as I'm concerned, that's your parking area, and I would think that you could open it. And I think what we're trying to do is just provide a public process for this idea.
Mm-hmm.
I have noticed that after you got all the cars off and sealed that parking area, that a lot of cars have morphed back into it again.
Right. It's just that quick. Yeah, it doesn't take long.
I was just thinking to myself, I said, oh, well, I'd rather park there too because it's closer to the terminal. My car would feel more secure. And then I thought, well, is there surveillance possibly there that isn't in the other area that might be an advantage too for the long-term parker?
Yeah, and I'm not exactly sure on that. It is outside the fence. We do have the option of closing the gate and still making it inside the fence, and that would be something we would also look at doing as well, just to continue that security of being inside the fence.
There's not surveillance at this point in time. Apparently,
I
many
think
years
we've
ago,
got I think it's there. It just is maybe not up to par and up to date with the, the actual functioning of it as of right now. But we're working on that as well.
Any other comments? I don't think this really requires any. It's not set up for action anyway. It's just discussion. But this provide a public process for ideas, and just for members of the public that might be watching. The long-term parking at our airport is $1 a day, I believe, and that's a pretty good deal. But we're not talking about charging anything for this because it's people that are utilizing the airport that would be parking there.
Right. Yeah, they're actually already paying, for leases inside the field.
So they're already covering that as part of their lease.
Right. Exactly.
And we do have a very limited number of vehicles that people are leaving that don't have leases with us that we need to.
And this would help
we need to move
identify
them. We need to have a
those.
place to move them, to offer them a place to park if they so choose. Is that
Correct.
true?
Mhm.
Are there any other comments? Okay, we'll close the public hearing, and I think that's our last discussion item. Any future agenda items?
Oh, just 1 minute. I just wanted to see how the painting project went. I don't know if we had a meeting with that, and if there, if that went well or not, and how that went.
My apologies, Brian. You should have reminded me. Let me turn it over to Brian. It went off very well, and kudos to Mr. Schultz for making it happen. Go ahead, Brian.
It is completed. Definitely thank you to Sharon Williams for donating the paint, and Civil Air Patrol for helping out, and the EAA members that came to help, and other airport patrons. Knocked it out in 1 day instead of 2, so that was really good. We have some paint left over, where we're hoping when it cools back down that we'll do a little bit more of the underside. We got the whole outside, all the poles, 2 coats, and it definitely looks better. So I just really appreciate everybody. Ed was a huge help, and Shannon and everybody that came out, and the kids were just a lot of fun. I think they had a good time, and they learned a lot about painting, so that was kind of fun to watch. So just glad it's over with, and then we'll get, what is it, the pearlettes, I think is the right term for the underneath structure that needs to be finished. So hopefully come October, November, we'll try and do that as well.
There are pictures on the EAA website that were provided to me, so I put them on the website.
Well, I got to throw out a data boy to Ed, because I saw you painting, and you were making those high schoolers look they didn't know what they were doing, and you really had a handle on stuff out there. We watched you for a while, and yeah, great job.
Okay, the next item is the future agenda. Do we have any future agenda items from the members of the board? Mr. Anderson?
I don't as of now. No.
I just have one, and again, it's to provide a public process and go back over the unauthorized vehicles that are not authorized to be parked on the airport. And I had the applicable to discuss in part City Ordinance 11.08.340 and 11.08.350. And to provide a process to reiterate to the public again what's allowed and what's not allowed. We've just talked about allowed parking and trying to provide for that. So next month I'd like to talk about what the vehicles that are not allowed on the airport in that process. Do we have anything else? As always, if you have anything, communicate and we'll get it on the board. With that, future meeting is Wednesday, May 15th, 2019 at 5:30 here in this facility. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Do I have a second?
Second.
Without objection, we are adjourned. Thank you.